quick?
Yeah.
I did mine this morning. It takes like 5-10 minutes at the most.
Yep. Yep.
It's not hard.
And for those of you who are members of SHARE too, the ILL traffic survey data can be Tracy Edwards is a huge help with that data. So it's not that hard. It's just a matter of getting it done.
Well, there's no data involved. It's just answering yes or no questions.
Yeah.
With this, the data is
the traffic survey. Yeah. So any questions for me about that? Anybody? And I'm available with any questions. Pat Bose is available for any questions. So never hesitate to pick up the phone and call if you do have questions.
Did that come out by email today?
It came out a couple of weeks ago from Ellen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And I think it was in Moving Forward together too. And then I sent an email about this meeting and the certification starting.
The link is in that email about today's meeting from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Thanks. And it's not very different from the questions you've answered before. So you're going to see it and say, oh, I've done this a million times. Yes.
We announce it in the State Library e-news, and we'll do that every month until the end of March. But the systems are really the go-to people for the communication that comes out more frequently, and we appreciate that. Thanks.
No problem. Any questions on anything else? Then we're going to move down the agenda to some of our discussion topics, and we just kind of labeled it what's ahead in 2017. And sitting here on the 3rd, I have no crystal ball at all, but we can throw these topics out and share what information we have. To our colleagues at the State Library, any updates on the budget? Any updates on from the State Library?
Hi, Ellen. This is Debbie. Today is the 3rd. The legislator's not supposed to be back until the 9th. So have heard nothing, and we're still in a holding pattern.
Okay. Stay tuned, right? It's Illinois. The next thing we have here is some upcoming events that we would really want to share with you. And the first things that are coming up are in late February and early March, and those are the legislative meetups sponsored by the Illinois Library Association. This is an annual event that, from where I stand, just keeps getting more and more successful because they keep adding more and more venues, which is really exciting. What this is a meal event, a breakfast or a lunch sponsored by ILA, to which local legislators are invited, and libraries are invited as well to speak to their legislators, to talk about library issues that are legislative issues that impact libraries. And it's kind of a gathering to make sure that the legislatures hears what we need. For the last several years have attended the one in Edwardsville, but the good news is, for me, living in Franklin County, is this year they're going to have one in Mount Vernon, in Jefferson County. So the ones closest to us are Friday, February 27th in Mount Vernon, and that's a luncheon, and Friday, March 3rd at Edwardsville at the Sunset Hills Country Club, and that's a breakfast event. It is, if you can go, if you can get trustees to go, it's really important. You know, our board has talked about advocacy. We've talked a lot about advocacy through the years, and you know, we can't always afford to go to the national legislative event in Washington. We're doing much more of these local events. So this is our time to really stand up and be counted and be there. Tina, can you hear me? Tina Hubert?
Yes.
You've been on a regular basis. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, it just would be great if people could get their legislators to attend. That's the biggest hurdle, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, it's as many trustees as can be there too, right?
Yeah, we have, in our library, We've had, I think, up to 3 trustees attend, and they always got a lot of good information out of it and really enjoyed it as well.
And typically, the ILA president will be there, the ILA lobbyist will be there to kind of give an overview of where ILA sits politically and what their big issues are now. And for the people in this room, on Friday, March 3rd, the breakfast will be in Edwardsville, but then there's going to be a luncheon in Bloomington Normal. So that is almost the closest for you guys, I would think. And obviously, there are no barriers to people attending wherever they choose.
And that one was new last year, the one in Bloomington, the luncheon, and it sold out really quickly. They had too small of a venue. I don't think they anticipated what they, I guess the need or the interest in that. So if you think you want to go, the sooner you can register, the better, to make sure that you can get into it. I mean, how far is Bloomington from here? An hour? An hour. And it would be great.
Were there more representatives there, congressmen and representatives?
I don't know. All I knew is that I registered too late. So I think they didn't have a big enough venue.
That's what I heard.
They weren't able to get a big enough venue, and I think that was what they were working on this time, to get a big enough place. So that's definitely one to register for, and that's good. I mean, it's all great if it's a packed house, as far from a legislator's point of view. It looks good, and but we also want to be in the room.
And the venue in Mount Vernon is going to be the Holiday Inn, so that certainly should have enough space, if memory serves. March 10th through 11th is the 2nd Annual Youth Services Institute. Again, embarrassed by the success of its first year. That again last year sold out, and they had to move to a bigger venue this year. So last year it was in Bloomington Normal. This year it's going to be in Springfield at the Crown Plaza. It is a wonderful event for your youth services staff. It's certainly well worth it. The registration, I believe, is $150. It's a 2-day conference, Friday and Saturday. The attendees really gave it a strong thumbs up as far as what it provided for their needs. And it's exciting to see an initiative like this succeed so well, trying for the first time and it working really well. And again, handling it for a second year. And then Reaching Forward South will be held at Eastern Illinois University on April 7th. And if you go to the website, they talk about Reaching Forward South being designed for frontline staff. And again, it's so close for us to be able to participate. And Susan's on the steering committee. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
I think we're really excited. We've tried to get a lot of different offerings, from designing your web to learning how to do social media, to John Traska from Every Library is going to come, as well as Patty Piotrowski. Did I say that? Mm-hmm. And she's from ILA. We're trying to really expand what is done in the past. And it's not just for, I guess actually it was half and half divided between frontline staff and directors. Because a lot of the directors, we have a lot of small libraries, right, and you are your front line as well. So I would encourage you to come. The website should be up. I'm not sure if we've got it functioning where you can register on there yet, but that's one of our goals as well. But it's pretty exciting. We're also going to try to see if Phil Lanzini might be able to come too. We've got to reach out, but we've got it on. We've got some sessions on wireless networking. We've got some great librarians we have loads of them. And I would encourage, this year we've got it pretty filled up, but for next year, if you guys can think of some things, we really are open to suggestions. If you know there's some topics that you want to have covered or something that you excel at, give us a holler, let us know. And it's great. I mean, I know that it's hard sometimes when you haven't done this before to present, to just get out there, grab somebody, grab another person, get 2 or 3 of you, come on and do a panel or something. It's that sharing of ideas that gets you excited again, and you get to doing different things. And maybe you can't do it at this level at your library, but there might be something in that you could do at your library. Anyway, I just encourage everybody to come. I think it's going to be grand.
And the next event, on upcoming events is one that we need to schedule to get scheduled, and that is we are planning on having a member day for the system members in the spring, in late March or in April. So we have to see what else is happening and see where we can squeeze that in. But look for a save the date from us within, I would think, the next 10 days. We'll have that date pinned down as well. And that again will be in Effingham. That tends to work out best as the most central place we can find in the system. Anything else that is coming up that people would like to share? Anything I missed? Okay.
Just again, the sheriff's semi-annual meeting next Wednesday.
That's right. The sheriff's semi-annual meeting next Wednesday. And that kind of bleeds into something else when I talked about anything I've missed. We do miss, and our colleagues in Springfield are right there with us, some of the offerings that we've experienced through the generosity of the State Library, like Spill Me, like the Bradley Institute, like I Lead You, and the good folks in ILA with lots of partners, including Illinois Heartland and Rails, have begun to work on reinventing the Synergy program, which was sponsored by the State Library, and now there's kind of a cooperative effort to remodel that and reinstitute a leadership institute for librarians in Illinois. And the committee is tentatively looking at a launch date of spring 2017. Stay attuned to what ILA publishes about that, because it's now in a formation mode. So there are committees on financing, there's committees on venue. One thing that was determined, and this was at a kind of a kickoff summit last July, actually it was the same day as the first Members Matters meeting, was that Synergy, as it had previously existed, was only open to those who had an MLS. And so it was a very select pool of people. And when this group gathered again last summer, they determined that they wanted to remove that MLS requirement for a whole host of reasons. So the pool of people for whom this will be applicable will be a much broader pool. And everybody was pretty excited about that. So watch and pay attention to what the offering might be, because if it doesn't fit your needs, think about the staff person who shows a lot of potential, and think that, wow, this could make a big difference on the trajectory of this person's career or this person's work life. So that's something to just keep in the back of your mind and watch for. And that is certainly a multi-type offering too. So that will be participation in that leadership initiative will be offered to public library staff, people, school, academics, specials. But it's an exciting, good thing that's coming like right over the horizon. So watch for that. Any questions about that or anything else that's coming up?
Do you want me to mention my media mall?
Sure.
Several of us attended a My Media Mall meeting by VTEL a month or so ago here in the Champaign office with Up North. And it turns out that the group of North Suburban libraries that formed the My Media Mall Consortium are looking at creating a governance structure to run the My Media Mall Consortium. But one of the things that came out in the meeting was the possibility that one of the members of that Northern Consortium has been talking to Overdrive, and there's a possibility that people who had dropped might be able to be added back in, or people who had never been able to join the My Media Mall Consortium might actually be able to join in at some point in the future. But myself, and I believe there's someone from Tolono that's, yes, there's a couple, three of us from this area who have agreed to be on this governance creation committee, and we will be meeting for the first time at the end of the month. So there's some good news. And it sounds like that they are actually going to take from where in the past we of the IHLS group that was a part of this only was one vote. When there were several of them in the meeting when they found out that that one vote has been representing 64 libraries. They were all kind of stunned. Most of them did not realize that there were that many libraries downstate. So there's a possibility that we will all each have our own vote from now on in that consortium. So that's another nice thing to come up.
Good. Sandy West, can you hear me?
She doesn't have a mic.
Okay, then I can say this. The next bullet point has to do with nominations for the IHLS board positions. We do have several board positions that will need to be filled for the upcoming 3-year term starting July 1st, 2017. And so the nominations committee will meet for the first time on January 5th. So if there's anybody you'd like to see nominated or have nominated, I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. And there, I think when we were trying to determine before this meeting, there are positions in kind of every, we know we need nominations for special academic school trustees, so.
Yes, we have an academic representative, a special library representative, a school library representative, and 2 public library trustee representatives. So the majority of our 15-member board is public library trustees, 8. So there will always be, because we have 3-year cycles, there will always be public trustee positions on the board. So this year we will be looking for. Please be thinking about folks that are on your boards, especially because that seems to be the position that we have the most of, and then it's also the most challenging to fill, I think, because there's so many positions for that on the board. But the other 3 are pretty necessary positions as well. So, and those elections, the way our calendar works, the ballot should go out in March and come back in April. And we're trying to move that forward this year. But it should be out early March and back in early April. So you're getting information soon in the nominations committee. All our members will, about how to nominate yourself, how to nominate others. And we'll start that whole thing again. It seems like we just did this. We're just doing it again.
Well, I'm going to talk as long as my voice will hold out, and I'm not sure how long that will be. But since it's January, we see in the newspaper a segment on new laws that are going to be coming into effect, and certainly there are new laws for libraries. And the one that is the most pertinent to us, because I believe they put the law about employees and exempt employees, they put that one on hold.
Yes, FLSA.
So we don't have to, that's not a deadline we're facing right now, but certainly the one about travel reimbursement and how that's done in our agencies is applicable as of January 1st. And if you need a sample travel policy for reimbursement, that is on L2. Phil Lanzini shared that with us when he came to do the legal day in October. So there is a sample travel reimbursement policy and a sample travel reimbursement form. And certainly, we have a lot to be grateful for I think the legal assistance we get in Illinois and for Illinois libraries. And one note I had earlier, just to remind you, was that the days and dates for public libraries for 2017 through 2018 is up on the ILA website. That's done for ILA by Phil Lanzini. And that's a very helpful document. I take that with me whenever I do a site visit to a public library and say, here's your cheat sheet, take this with you and pay attention to it. The other thing that's very helpful in case you don't get it, the Ansel Glink law firm does an email blast called Municipal Minute. And I don't know if any of you subscribe to it. It's very helpful. It is very helpful on getting legal issues out to you that might be pertinent to your library. And it's searchable. It's, you can go back and look at that travel reimbursement thing. You can look at the Open Meetings Act policies. So take advantage of those little legal nuggets that might be helpful to you. Any questions about that? If you weren't able to join us for Phil's Day in October, he did have some really helpful handouts, and they're all on that L2 description, and that was, I believe, October 21st. So you can go back and look at those handouts. The next bullet point is serving diverse populations, and let's put that aside for now, because that was something that we talked about at our last Members Matters meeting that somebody suggested we talk about again. So let's get through some of the bullet point issues. And the last bullet point has to do with library advocacy. And knowing that our board is working hard to be effective advocates, and also to empower all of us to be effective advocates for our library, for our system, to place our libraries well in the communities. IHLS is working on a rebranding project that will help us get our message out, hopefully even more effectively in our communities and to our legislators, to our stakeholders, to our, what's the term we used, allies and champions? Mm-hmm. People who are out there in the community that support us. And we're working at identifying those people. Another thing we're doing, which is the staff is doing, which is a really interesting exercise, is we're working on reverse strategic planning. So right now, pretty much all the staff is working on identifying the top 10 things we do and prioritizing them, and then getting input from other staff members about, is this really reflective of what you do? Or is this the most important thing you do? Or are you forgetting that you do that? And it's been really interesting. I've done it twice so far. Susan and Leslie probably have done it 3 times so far. And it's really interesting to get that input and to really hone in on what it is that's important that you do. And I think the other thing is, as far as cross-training for staff, for them to see, oh, she does that, I didn't know, or, or Troy, what does this mean that you wrote this down? I don't even understand this, tell us what this means. So as a staff exercise and as a cross-training exercise, it's been really helpful. Leslie, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The ultimate goal, I guess, in all of this, besides helping all of us to understand what we all do and how it all fits together, because we do have a lot of new staff or staff that are in new or different positions. It always helps for all of us to kind of touch base with each other. And we have gone through some staff changes in the last year with position eliminations and and such, and some folks took on new roles. Some roles we had to just set aside. So it's kind of, I think it's very helpful exercise for everybody to kind of see what's happening. But the ultimate goal really, it all started when this summer, when we determined that we need to be more visible as an organization, and this is something that our board takes very seriously. And so our staff, some of our staff will be supporting our board in doing this. But we already realized in the first half of 2016 that we only have a limited amount of time in our year, or in our work day. And when we lost staff and then redistributed job assignments and everything, we weren't gaining more time, we were losing time. So to be able to take on another project and support the board, we call it priorities, and the staff side of advocacy is called priorities. And so the other thing we're hoping to find, and I think we're starting to see this now as we go through these sessions, we've got one more all staff session scheduled, is there's some of us that are doing the same thing, or where we're actually crossing each other's boundaries in terms of jobs, not personal
Yeah, not personal.
personal space, but we might be doing that too. That's a whole new story. But is identifying where there might be jobs that that are already taken care of. They're already well attended to, and there are some people who may have some time, and that's not something that we would. We started out thinking that we would find, but it's actually something that is really nice to find. And we have some very creative staff. We have some amazing staff that work with us every day, and they're energetic and they're enthusiastic. And oh, you have no idea how happy I am to tap into some of that energy and say, wow, you got 10 minutes or you got an hour, every week. How can we rearrange your schedule that that your manager will be happy with? And because we've got a project that's right up your alley, and it will make a big difference. It'll make an impact, and it will help our board members when they start meeting with groups and organizations in our general service area in explaining what we do and how we serve residents in Central and Southern Illinois. So, and what is it that systems do in a nutshell. So that's what we're trying to achieve with this, and I think that we're getting there. I think that we're making progress. So we're tied to the branding, and it might be a slightly different, whole new place, because as Chris says, we're not in kindergarten anymore. We're 5 years old, so now we're in first grade. So we're a little older and a little sassy. So at some point you need to stand up and speak out, and that's where we're at. So.
And speaking of that's where we're at, Susan said it really well as far as participating and getting out there and getting a partner if you need a partner. And we have creative staff. We also have incredibly creative member libraries. It's so much fun to go and do site visits because you see what people do and how they're doing it and how they're impacting their patrons, their communities. It's amazing. And we want you to make sure that you get out there and tell your stories. So next year's Illinois Library Association Conference currently has out calls for proposals, for program proposals. That's open until March 24th. If you'd like to do a program, please do that. I can't not tell you how proud we are when we get a program booklet and we see our members participating. Because, and I've lived in Southern Illinois for 38 years now. Oh, no, 42. Anyway, I've lived in Southern Illinois for a long time. And not being a native, it's certainly my adopted home now. And I get a little testy when people overlook Southern Illinois. And I get a little testy when people think good things don't happen in Southern or Central Illinois, because they do, and we know it. But we also know that we're always going to have to drive the farthest. And, that's just a fact of life, living where we do. Sometimes we have to go to where the action is. So next year's conference will be in Tinley Park. Tinley Park is the easiest drive you'll ever have in the Chicago area. So when you see it's a Chicago location, don't stress out. It's really easy. And the older I get, the more of a driving wimp I become. And Tinley Park's easy. You just go to 80, head west for like 10 miles and you're there. So it's no big deal at all. But if you'd like to think about a proposal, please consider submitting one. And it's all online, and the program submission form even has something that says, do you need help? Call us. So think about it, and let's get Southern Illinois on the map, and Central Illinois. And then my last note under advocacy is a question for all of you. When you think about being an advocate for your library or for your community, how can we help? Is there anything we can do to help? And I'd really be interested to hear what you have to say, because this is a reason why these meetings exist, because we need input from you to know that we're on the right track. So is there anything we can do? Is there information you need? Is anybody?
And maybe people just need a little bit of time to think about
That's
it.
true.
But they could email Ellen. She would love to receive those ideas,
That's
right?
true. Yep, absolutely.
Sometimes it's hard to, on the spot, think of things, but think about how the system could help you guys. I think that there are ways that even we haven't thought of, that's still within our plan of service, that's still within our constraints that we can help.
And one of the things that we've, when we last summer is determined that that the board was going to go forward with this advocacy initiative, is that there's an element of this initiative, probably more towards the second part of this project, that geared again toward what the things Ellen was alluding to, that, sometimes when we live in central or southern Illinois, sometimes, the World Series trophy doesn't make its way down to where we live, so we can't see it, or, other things like that happen, and we're kind of left out. And sometimes we feel, some of our members do, and sometimes I admit I'm one of those folks too, kind of left out of that conversation about, well, how do I even approach my legislator? Or how do I even advocate for me, when I have to go to City Hall, or I have to go to a community meeting, with all these other organizations? How do I say, wait a minute, we should be up there with everybody else, and the library should be, we're just as important as any other community agency if there's XYZ available, right? For funds or resources or whatever. How do I do that? And one of the things we will be putting together at the end of all of this is some kind of a toolkit or resource for our members. Nothing like the ILA app. I'm on the ILA site because we've been talking about the ILA call for programs for the 2017 conference. Not like the ILA advocacy toolkit, nothing like that. But I think more of a, maybe just a more straightforward, or not that theirs isn't okay, it's fine. But something a little different, straightforward, this is how advocacy can work for you. This is how it's worked for us so far, based on our experiences in our types of the communities we serve, with the types of organizations that serve all of us, because those are the organizations we're going to be partnering with, and the corporations that we hope to partner with, the very large corporations that are headquartered or have regional offices in our service area. That's who our board's going to be working with, and has already started reaching out to. So how does it work for us? And we want to take that experience and share it with our members. So the more feedback you can give us, the better it is. And I think it's more about statesmanship than it is about being it's not the politically savvy, I know a bill number, or I know, the last three things that so-and-so voted for, how he or she voted. It's more about building that relationship, right, in advocacy, building that relationship with this mayor or this council person or whatever influential person is you're trying to get to know. And that's where I think it has to start. And that's what's helped me to feel more comfortable with it. So, but when you share it with us, it helps us to help everybody else. So, or if there's something you've been doing, like Janet's been doing, or maybe Susan's done that has been really successful, tell us if you want to share it in public or if you want to share it in private. We'd love to hear it, because what you've done, what you've experienced in your communities may work in other communities. It's another way to look at it.
Something the system could do maybe is to look at some system advertising or press releases that would go out. Last year, the local TV station ran things about ebooks, and of course, it only hit Champaign-Urbana Public Library. Yet we've been carrying ebooks at St. Joe for the get-go. But, it'd be nice if maybe the system people sent out that it's available throughout the system, highlighting not just the big libraries in the communities that have TV stations, but some of us little libraries that have it.
A lot of people watch Channel 3 News. It's not just Champaign and Urbana people that watch that.
But unfortunately, and when I contact them, I send them emails and, offer, they only go to Champaign-Urbana for their commentary.
Okay. That's good. Thank you.
And that's frustrating
Yes.
in all regions, because I think a syndicate will pick one library
Well, and because it's in, WCIA is in Champaign, they're going to go to Champaign-Urbana Public Library. They might sometimes. Now, something I've been doing was I got contacted by the News Gazette that they wanted a column every week of librarians doing book reviews. And so I do a book review in the News Gazette once a week. And they've been cycling that amongst several of us librarians in the area. And that's been something I've been doing for a little over a year now. So that was nice. Can be a bit of work, trying to write 500 words about something without giving away too much of the plot, but but anyway, what I was going to ask is if you guys develop a brain thing so we could send out a message to every single person in our community that this is going on at the library, because it's you do Facebook, you do your web page, you do the newspaper, you do the radio stations, and there's still people go, well, I didn't know.
I know. I know.
And it becomes frustrating. How do you actually, other than calling every single house or knocking on every single door, how do you get that out there effectively when you're hitting all the major social media, print resources? I mean, the number of people who say they don't read their paper anymore, but you try to hit all the major, and it's just hard to get that information out there.
It is. Anybody have any thoughts about that for Susan? Getting information out as broadly as possible.
Ellen, this is Diana. I don't necessarily, I absolutely understand what you're saying, Susan, so I don't necessarily have a way to speak to that, but in terms of maybe what the system can do for us in that situation, perhaps the system could coordinate something, for example, with the Southern Illinoisan, maybe with some other, similarly sized newspapers where you do a weekly librarian column, but you could solicit a different column from each of the different librarians. So each of us only has to write, one column per 1 or 2 columns a year, but it would keep libraries, Southern Illinois libraries, in the forefront of, without, it kind of synergizes our workloads. And then maybe also a marketing campaign where the system designs the brochures or the posters, and we as members can plug in our own information. There was a really good campaign years ago, and Ellen, I know you remember it, that was a tattooed man reading a knitting book, and these were really cool posters about loving your library, and they would be put up, and I think they were designed specifically for restrooms. So maybe something along those lines would be another way that the system could help us to get the word out about our libraries too.
Diana, I really like the idea of the rotating column, because just to go back to Susan's example, what always bothers me, and I'll use the Southern because that's the newspaper I read, there'll be an article that says, Carbondale Public Library has ebooks. Well, so does Marion, so does Murfreesboro, so does Huron, so do all the surrounding communities. And if Diana was in charge of that column, she would say, libraries in Southern Illinois that offer ebooks to their patrons include, so that a librarian in charge of that piece of writing would be inclusive and know more of the scope of the topic than, a reporter calling and saying, do you have ebooks? So that's a pretty cool idea. And Diana, those posters too, I think they were designed so that libraries could each put their own information in there.
But a lot
Yeah,
of
I believe they
businesses
were.
nowadays don't let you put up as much posters as they used to in the old days.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, even our local IGA doesn't allow that kind of stuff up on their walls. They don't have enough room for everybody who would want to post.
Huh. That's interesting.
So it's harder in the community to find places to hang it up out in the community.
Well, you talk about social media. So, we do all that, and you do a website. I don't know if Troy's still around. We have ongoing conversations about listservs. And Troy's point is that people have to opt in. But if that, if that was a thing too, but just until the day all of us, we're never going to get everybody to get the information they need. We just try and have to keep hitting and experimenting and see what works. And we just do the best we can. Anything else about getting information out to people? Anything that's worked really well for people? Anybody?
I've been using Wildberry for a little over a year. I purchased him when we got the system-wide discount, and I have patrons who rave about it. Still not as big of a patron base using it as I'd like, but the patrons who use it love it.
Do you want to remind people what that is?
Wildberry is a weekly email newsletter. You can design articles or upcoming events, advertise them, but it also, you work with Wildberry and they pull information from Share, or I guess if you weren't in Share, they would pull it from standalones of new items you have at your library. So it's not just news articles, but it highlights the items I've added new this week. And in Share, there's actually a link in the email newsletter that the person can click, and it takes them right to the Share catalog so they can put their name on hold for it right now. And then it takes them back to the newsletter. And I have so many patrons who rave about being able to place their holds the minute they see something has come out. So it has been useful, but again, I wish more people would sign up for it, but that's a slow process.
And what's it called?
Wowbrary, WOWBRARY, and there is a system discount. I don't know if I think it's probably out on the website somewhere, but Chris
and Leslie.
Also, it ties in with your Facebook page, and it posts
yes.
right to your Facebook page.
The weekly email and Twitter, and you can even, if you do Amazon for your purchasing, you can actually have people click a link in the newsletter that when they purchase stuff from Amazon, it gives you credit for that. So you get credit back on your Amazon account to purchase stuff.
Wow. They've
got all sorts of marketing. They've got a banner that you can put on your website, so they can click that banner to go to sign up for the newsletter. And it has a lot of, I think they're even doing Pinterest now, but I'll admit I don't do Pinterest. I do have it posted to my Twitter feed every week and to my Facebook feed every week. Thanks.
But can't you also tie it in with like your calendar and stuff? Once they sign up, they get emails from you as well?
That may be part of it, but I basically just use it to do I put my stuff that I have going on the calendar in there, and then I advertise like the website and stuff like that.
Do you know how it's fee-based, for a smaller library?
It is fee-based. It's based on the number of patrons you have. I think that's part of it. I don't remember the complete.
I think ours was like $375 for the year.
Yeah, it's based on the number of patrons, the potential number of patrons they would be sending emails for you. And you can contact him. Jeff Levinsky is who I work with Wildberry, and he's a really nice guy. And they send out updates every once in a while on new stuff that they're adding, because they're creating new things in it all the time.
That's neat.
They just recently added Zinio as well. If you add Zinio.
So what does it do with Zinio? Does it focus on magazines then, or?
The new issues.
Okay.
Oh, okay. See, I don't do Zinio, so I didn't know that. Okay.
Anybody out there using Wowbrary? Okay.
We use it. This is Tina.
Any comments, Tina?
We love it, and they send Carrie, my assistant, actually does all the magic with it, and she has it forward to our Facebook page, and I'm sure it shows up on our Pinterest and in our Twitter and everything. And we do get regular emails from someone who tells us how to connect to different things from Zinio on it too. Does that make sense? But it's one of for our Facebook feed, it's one of our highest rated items on Facebook every month as far as how many people it reaches. We like it. It's pretty easy. Actually,
you can have it I was gonna say, you can have it forward to your library page, but then I also have it forward to my personal feed. And because I'm the maintenance person for the chamber Facebook page, I also have it posted on
There
the
you
chamber
go.
Facebook page. So I'm trying to hit as many people diverse as possible on Facebook.
That's a really nice partnership with the chamber too.
Well, it helps when you've been the treasurer for 18 years.
There are perks everywhere, Susan. You got to take them where you can get them.
I was going to add in that at the Illinois Heartland Library System, we also have Rained Out. I don't know if you guys are getting the text alerts for when. We will use that as a way to alert you if the weather's gotten bad, the drivers come back, or maybe we've canceled. It's another way to get a text, or you can sign up for an email there. You would just simply go to rainedout.net and then search for Illinois Heartland Library System, and then it will pop up and we'll walk you for, through signing up. You can sign up for all, so then you would get from every single hub whenever we do one of those, or you can sign up for just your hub area. It's up to you how you want to receive it. I believe you can get both, actually, text and email.
And
I know sometimes
it works
it's hard.
really well. This year I went back in to make sure my contact was still correct and said, oh, you're already signed up for this. And
right. It was just another way, because not everybody has access to their internet all the time, and you don't know if the drivers come back or not, or if we've canceled. It's an easy way, if you have your phone especially, to have a text. There'll be charges if you get charged for text, but we're not charging you anything to receive a text. It'd be the company. So I encourage you to go to rainedout.net. And if it doesn't work the way I just said, get a hold of me, Susan Palmer, and I'll see actually how it really does. This is how I'm remembering. So
no, you're right.
Am I right? Okay.
You're right. You're right. You're right. And it's very nice to get that text and to know that that's what's happening. We have, as a bullet point, we have serving diverse populations. And if memory serves, then that was November, and we've had, 2-3 major holidays between that November Members Matter meeting and this Members Matter meeting. We did want to talk some more about the diverse populations that enter our libraries. I watched the best program, I think it was 2 nights ago on PBS, about cyber seniors. It was so cool. It was these kids who had a project to go in and teach seniors technology, and they went into their houses, and it wasn't through libraries, but they went into their homes and they helped one woman do FaceTime. Another lady, this was the funniest thing I've ever seen, another lady in an assisted living facility did a YouTube video on how she cooked corn in her tea maker and made grilled cheese with an iron. And it was kids teaching her how to do this. So, we have diverse populations as far as age goes. We have diverse populations as far as ethnicity goes. We have diverse populations as far as interest goes. And I just wanted to throw that out there to see if anybody had any questions they had about how to better serve maybe a new population that's suddenly appearing at your library, or a challenge that a certain population has had. I think last time we talked about some of the more problematic ones, but can we throw it out there and talk about who's new in your library and what would you like to see happen? Anybody? Anybody doing anything fun for seniors this year? We had a discussion in our car the other night about coloring programs. That was one that came up in our family discussion. Anything going on for seniors?
Why didn't I? That was gonna wait under the ground. Go ahead, sorry.
That's okay. C-Lane from Waterloo. We have several times a year programs for seniors on Medicare and how to enroll and all of the options and things like that go with that. We're offering another one this time on dealing with seniors and memory loss and some things like that we're working on with those kinds of things, those kinds of programs throughout the year.
Elaine, I would imagine the Medicare one is wildly successful. Do you have people just
Yes.
flock there? Yeah.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. We offer it several times a year. And it's just somebody kind of explaining these are some of the steps. This is kind of how you have to do what you have to do with it. And it is wildly popular. We really
Who
do.
do you have presented?
A local person who, Nancy Heinley is a local insurance agent who deals with this,
Okay.
and works with this. Yeah. So it's a local person.
Okay. Speaking of the memory issues, the University of Illinois Cooperative Extension, in cooperation with an Alzheimer's group, is doing something called Brain Health. And they do a series of meetings where they give you exercises to help seniors develop memory, to work with memory issues to help offset Alzheimer's. And we will be hosting at my library in March, 2 weeks. It'll be a Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, an hour and a half each. There's 4 sessions, and they are willing to come and schedule. They want a minimum of 10 people to attend. So I'm praying that I get the attendance for it. But Ogden had this group last fall and had a really good turnout for it. So I'm hoping that will be something to help with because Alzheimer's is something, it's very prevalent, memory issues. And we have an aging population that's trying to live on their own as long as possible. So, yeah. And we do a weekly coloring time. We start off in the fall and decide to offer it to the end of the year every Wednesday night. We still don't have a huge group coming, but we have a very loyal 4 to 6 people who come every Wednesday night to do coloring. They actually did Christmas cards. November and December, we had found patterns for coloring Christmas cards. So we did that, but we're going to still offer that every Wednesday night. In fact, one of the ladies just recently bought us another coloring book to use. So.
Anything else for the seniors in your communities?
Oh, I'm going to be a regional host for the Senior Spelling Bee.
Oh, fun.
The statewide, if you don't know about, there's a statewide Senior Spelling Bee that's offered through the Illinois Senior Aging Committee. It's ISAC, I think, is the committee. But there's a Senior Spelling Bee. You have to be age 50 and up to participate in the spelling bee, and they have local competitions, and then the local competitions are in zones, and then there's a regional competition in each of those zones, and then the winners of the regional competition compete at the state fair in August for a statewide championship, and this will be our third year hosting a local competition.
Wow. What kind of turnout do you have for that season?
The first year I had 8. Last year, 2 years ago, I had 5. Last year I had 2, so they were the default winners to go. Again, it could have been the date and time. It's so hard to know dates and times picking and also with weather, because the local competition has to be between March and May, so you've got to schedule it. And I want to schedule it early enough, that way if there is something wrong, we can always reschedule. And then the regional competitions are June, July, and then the statewide one is in August. So there is a way to sign up to do that if you're interested. The zones are quite big.
Do you remember who won, what the winning word was last year?
No, and I didn't go to the state library. And I will tell you these words, I am the reader, and you do have to practice the words. There are very easy words, and then there are words and you look at it, and thankfully, you don't have to come up with your own word list. You don't have to come up with the sample sentences. They provide all that to you. Basically, they give you the 1,000 or 2,000 words in a document, and it has the pronunciation and it has a sample sentence, because in the spelling bee, the participant can't ask you to use the word in a sentence. So at least they've already given you that. And they give a sheet for the participants, 20 sample words to practice. And those 20 words must be in the first 4 rounds of the competition. So it's very regulated. There's rules, but you can go out and sign up for the Senior Spelling Bee and be a host. And I'm hoping to continue to encourage my seniors in my community. And I actually got somebody from Gibson City to come, or somebody contacted me from Decatur, because Decatur and Gibson City and myself are all in the same region. The regions are kind of big, so you never know who you might get in your community to participate.
That would be kind of a good modeling thing for little kids too, to see grown-ups up there doing a spelling bee. Well, we talked about seniors. How about adult programming or young adult programming? Anybody have exciting stuff going on? Oh, come on. Anybody?
We actually have at Danville, our teen staff have put together some programs recently that have been getting quite a lot of attendance, steady attendance, which is amazing for teens. But one of them is called Meeting of the Minds, and they choose, or actually it's Meeting of the Teen Minds, and they choose a topic. They choose a topic 1 month and they discuss it the next month. And I have not attended one of them, but we actually had a newspaper editor come to one of them and speak with them and write up something. So it was really exciting. And then we also have a manga club as well, and that kind of thing.
What are some of the things they wanted to discuss?
Let's see, one month they discussed labels, like labels that people apply to each other and themselves. One was the election. I'm trying to think what other ones. Stereotypes. Just all they choose big. I think one month was actually racism. So they choose really big concepts to discuss usually. And they seem to enjoy it. And they keep coming back month after month. So
that's very cool.
Yeah.
How did you start that program?
A couple of my staff people talked about it, and they asked if it was okay, and I said, sure, try it. And that's all they did. They just they advertised the first one and said, and asked teens to come to it, and said, would you like to discuss once a month big topics? And they said, sure, yeah, we'd really love to. And so they chose the first topic, and then the next month they just started it. So
where did you advertise it?
Just in our teen space. We didn't really do any big, we didn't do a press release or even a PSA for it. And I think staff talked it up a bit, so.
I didn't know if you reached out to the schools and started it and worked with the schools and tried to get information from that.
No, we didn't do that.
Thank you.
How many kids did you get?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Darn it. I don't remember. I could find out, but I do know it's been steady, and
that's really nice.
They're getting enough that they're continuing with it. So.
How are you moderating those conversations, or do you have resources to help you lead those discussions? And is it your staff, or is
it's our staff at this point? Yeah.
Do they have ground rules, like making sure there's no personal attack? I mean, how do you keep it pleasant with each other?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I don't really know. I've not like I said, I've not attended one, and I didn't get into that kind of detail with them, but they're pretty about keeping things civil in this space as much as they can. So.
But Diana, to your point, there would be an opportunity if they knew the kids wanted to discuss something that was really sensitive, to almost bring somebody in to help facilitate that discussion if they felt they needed to. That's really, what do you call it?
Meeting of the Teen Minds.
Meeting of the Teen Minds. That's fun. Anything else? Teens, adults, community outreach initiatives going on? Oh, it's January and we're
Another
tired.
one.
Go ahead, please.
This is something that we started last year. It's actually modeled on I think something that we saw in Moving Forward or whatever the newsletter is called.
Uh-huh.
But Project Uplift is what it's called, and it's a homelessness initiative where we, in November and December, we do a sock drive. And then my staff talk to people around the community, and they get somebody to sponsor a meal. They get all kinds. Well, last year I think we had 15 organizations in our well, it's a large meeting room, but it was too tiny for that day. But they had 15 community organizations. They had all kinds of giveaways from the community, and so they put together goodie bags. And we had 85 folks who were either homeless or on the verge of it come and get information. And so it was like a 3 or 4 hour event that Saturday, but it was pretty successful. So we're doing it again this year. It's on January 27th. January 27th. And we did have, when we first announced it, we had a lot of pushback. People would say, "Are you sure you want all those homeless people in your library?" You know, that kind of thing. Oh yeah, seriously. And it just turned out to be a really great day. And
Neat.
so, yeah. So I'm hoping that continues.
So did you do a sock drive this year?
We did this year, yeah.
So those will be in the goodie
I don't know
bags
how
and
many- yeah, we had over 1,000 pairs of socks
Wow.
last year. In fact, it was closer to 2,000.
wow,
So men's, women's, and children's. So,
that's really neat.
yeah.
And a good community partnership too.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
it's not just the library, it's
Right.
everybody together.
Right.
Okay. I have this feeling the discussion is winding down a little bit. So I'd like to put something out, and that is to ask you, our next meeting will be March 2nd, I believe. I could be wrong. It will be the first Tuesday in March. But my question to you is, what if there was a topic that we could discuss at length? If you have suggestions, you're welcome to share them with us now. If you have a suggestion later, let us know. And maybe we can get a discussion question or two out in advance. And then people can get ready to discuss, because we really, this is all of, these meetings are designed to update you, but also to ask for your input, ask for your feedback, and allow you to share among each other. I would ask the Zoom people, how has the Zoom experience been?
It's working. I'm still figuring out some of the pieces to it, though. I just discovered that there's a whole chat session I could have and read the chat. It's working.
Good. I really like that it works with the VTEL. That is so cool, and that will help us so much.
Yeah.
Christina, how's it working for you? Can she hear us? Maybe not.
Maybe she's trying to figure out how to unmute.
Maybe. Well, if anybody else is on Zoom and wants to chat a comment that Troy can figure out, let's do that. Robert, how's Zoom working for you? Yeah. Do you need to unmute?
Yes.
Zoom is working fine. You got it? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's working fine.
Good, good.
And we have a couple of things going on. I put it in the chat, but I can say it right now if you got a minute.
Oh, please do, because
Okay,
Troy's seeing the chat, but we're not.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, first of all, we begin our free tax service this month. Every year we offer a free tax service for the community, and the public just comes in, and we have Dr. Michael Brown from Millikan University. He brings in some volunteer students I think it's from his business class, and they just assist with free taxes. And we usually have, I mean, we have over 1,000 people come in from now until April. The other thing we're offering, well, right now we're getting ready to go into our strategic planning process. We've already started. We're working with Library Strategies out of St. Paul, Minnesota, and a local marketing group, Jones and Thomas. They've been helping us with it. And we also, we hired DCC Marketing to get us a new logo. So those are some of the things that we have coming out right away. Oh yeah, and RFID. This month we start our process to convert to RFID. So.
Oh, wow.
We'll be pretty busy next few months.
Well, you know, let us know how all these things go, how Project Uplift goes, how RFID goes, because, you know, when you share those stories, that's good information for everybody else to have as well.
Sure, will do.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Robert. On the tax thing, have you ever had anyone come back on you that somebody helped them do their taxes wrong and they got audited? How do you deal with that? Or have you prepared for anything like, or is there something they signed that they're not holding the library liable? That's why I've always been reluctant to bring tax volunteers into the library.
Well, Dr. Michael Brown, who works with, I think he also works with the MBA program over at Millikan University, and he has some tax preparers that have actually, I mean, they've been doing it for years. So they assume all the responsibility, all the questions forward straight to him. The library, we don't do any tax consultation at all. It goes through Dr. Brown and his group.
So you're providing the space and the location. You're not providing, you're not liable for any of the...
We provide the space, we provide the supplies, and the marketing. And they do a little bit of marketing themselves also.
Are they charging people for that service? Are they doing it for free?
It's a total free service for the public.
Wow. And are you paying the person to do it? Or are they just donating their time?
The only thing we're out of is on Saturdays we have to supply lunch. So that's pretty much it. Subway, usually it's Subway, so that's not so bad.
Does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share? Or any pieces of information they'd like to share?
Ellen?
Deb?
Yes, I have a few announcements from the State Library. As you mentioned, certification did open today, and it goes till March 31st. Construction applications are being accepted at the State Library until January 15th. Also, everyone's per capita is due by January 15th. The IFLAR survey is up and running. For those of you who close of your fiscal year, you have 60 days after the close of your fiscal year to go ahead and complete your IFLAR. There are 3 literacy webinars coming up on January 12th. If you've not had any interest or anything about literacy, being a partner, you can attend one of those webinars if you would like. And also the ISLAC meeting, the Illinois State Library Advisory Council meeting, is coming up on January 12th.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't invite you to chime in more formally before.
That's okay. It's your meeting.
No. Any other announcements people would like to share? Okay, please do 2 things. One is don't forget to certify and complete that interlibrary loan traffic survey, but also shoot me some ideas for discussion points for the March meeting, and we can have those available in advance. People can think about it, and we can join together to discuss. And I'm sure we'll have much more from the system to update you on by then. More about our advocacy program. We can wrap you up on the legislative meetups, on some of the things that will happen before then. So Thank you all for coming out today, and we'll see you in March.
One more
Oh,
thing.
Leslie, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Do you have evaluation?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and if you do not have one at your location, or if you're attending via Skype, if you go to L2 for the event for today, there should be an evaluation form there that you can print one out, and if you could send it to, there should be a phone number there for you to send it to. Yeah. But if you don't have the number, you don't see it, it's 618-656-9401, or just call us in any of our offices and we'll make sure that, well, we get you that number. Thank you. That's it, Ellen. Thank you.
Okay. So that's it from us. We're a little bit abbreviated today, but maybe that'll get everybody home a little bit earlier.
Sure.
So take care, everybody.
Bye.